What's up, guys? This is the Honest Outlaw here, and today we're going to be doing the full 1,000-round review on the Staccato P. Before we do that, I want to mention my patron supporters. Thank you guys very much. It's because of you we can get guns like this. Purchase this gun with the patron dollars and the ammunition used for the video as well. So thank you guys very much. If you want to help support the channel, all you got to do is go down to the link in the description and sign up with Patreon. You get some exclusive content and good community over there and all that good stuff. Also, I would like to mention a local shelter in Ames, Iowa. It's the YSS. Those kids could use your help. I try to support them in every video. The link for their donate page is in the description as well. Now, the Staccato P used to be the STI Staccato P, but Staccato just recently changed their name, I think, for the better. The Staccato P is what I would consider probably the most duty military law enforcement use style 2011 ever made. They kind of took a new take on it. And the STI, the company that they used to be, pretty much invented, or at least in part invented, the 2011. So they really had their hands on this project from the very beginning, enhancing it and making it better over the years. And I think this is the pinnacle of what the, at least STI has been able to make the 2011. Now, the Staccato P is a 4.4-inch 2011 style gun. And what that means is essentially a 1911 with a couple of changes. It is single action only. So the gun will not operate unless the hammer is cocked to the rear. That allows it a very short and light trigger pull, but it also makes it so you'd want to use a manual safety, which is good or bad depending on the particular battery of arms that you are used to. However, I personally really like it. If you don't like the safety, you don't have to use it, but I would seriously recommend it. It also helps with riding the recoil. Now, when I say it's like a 1911 but not, it's because it technically takes double stack magazines. The Staccato P comes with 3 17-round magazines or 20-round magazines, depending on which version you get. The original Staccato P that I purchased had black coated magazines, which I think were 20 rounds. They had 2 extended base plates on them and then 1 regular magazine. And this one came with 3 17-round magazines that are silver. So it depends on what you get, I guess. Now, as I said, some come with and some come without optic cuts, which we'll get into in a second. But the 2011 is not just a double stack 1911, it is actually 3 parts. So you have the slide here, which is a steel slide, and then you have a steel frame, and then you have a polymer grip, all which can be removed and replaced at your leisure. After this video, I'm actually going to be putting on a Dark Side Precision lower that I got from Dark Side Precision, obviously, but they have an extremely aggressive stipple job, and they did a few modifications for me as well, and I really like these, so I'm going to be throwing one on there as well. You'll see the update video of that at some point, but I wanted to do the full 1,000-round review with the stock gun first, kind of give you my real impressions of what I think. So you get the polymer grip, you get the steel frame, and you get the steel slide. It's going to be a little bit heavier, even though it has the polymer frame, than an average polymer gun, for example. Normal polymer guns, full-size guns like a Glock 17, PPQ, stuff like that, coming around 26, 27 ounces, somewhere in there, whereas the Staccato P comes around 34. So it's going to be, 8 to 10 ounces heavier than your average duty-size gun. What you get out of that, though, is recoil control. It certainly controls the recoil a lot better than your average polymer gun. Most of that is because the majority of the weight added is actually in the frame and in the dust cover right here, which when unloaded makes it feel a little top heavy. However, when loaded makes it balance absolutely perfectly. The Duo now, as I said, is a couple $100 more. The Staccato P's run around $2,000, and then the Duo, I think the MSRP is $2,300, $2,400, somewhere in there. I originally had the standard iron sight version. I was going to get it milled like I did my Staccato C2. However, I had an opportunity to trade it for one of the Duo versions, and the new Duo version actually has a lower plate on it, so I went for it and I couldn't be happier. The Duo version comes with co-witness fiber optic sights, so even if you're running a big old optic like the SRO, you can still see it in the bottom 1/3 there. If you're looking for an optic system setup that's very reliable, I've found that this doesn't lose zero at all, and we've inadvertently dropped this a few times, and on purpose dropped this a few times, and seen no issues whatsoever. It's got a standard Picatinny rail with only 1 slot in it. It's got the classic 2011 serrations and cuts, so you can run the slide really, really easily, even with the optic on it. Sometimes when you have an optic on top, you completely run out of space, and then you have no way to operate the gun without bumping the optic, and over and over again, you can lose zero. So it's nice that they come with very aggressive serrations, so you can use that pinch method. Trigger here is somewhere around 3-4 pounds. It's heavier than your average Atlas or Infinity or something like that because it's designed for duty use, but it's still extremely crisp and short, so it allows you extremely accurate and fast follow-up shots. The grip here has good texture, but obviously not great, or I wouldn't have a need for this. So I'd like to see a little bit more texture on there, but it's pretty much every gun I have that complaint. Trigger undercut is good, significantly better than old generations of the 2011, and then it obviously has a grip safety along with a manual safety. Now, some 2011s have grip safeties and some don't. The Xperia or the EDC X9, for example, they come with their grip safeties pinned, so do a lot of the Atlas Gunworks guns that I run. I don't mind having a grip safety as long as it has the very large memory pad. The only downside to it is when you ride the 2011 high like I do, and like a lot of competitive style shooters do, you come in here like this and you press down really hard and your hand kind of separates from that grip safety, and then eventually the gun won't go off. So you really have to focus and make sure that on presentation or on the grip when you pull your gun out of the holster that you have a proper grip and you are pushing this down, or you're essentially going to have a very expensive paperweight, maybe in a situation where you don't want that to take place. So if you're worried about that at all, or your particular style of shooting causes an issue with that, there are things you can do. So just be aware of that. But if you don't like that idea, then by all means pick another gun, because most 1911, 2011 style guns will have a grip safety. Even guns like the Springfield XD have them. However, this one's done really well, and I don't think you're going to have any issues. Rear serrations are good as well, and then we have the beveled magwell here, which works really well for magazine changes. So what would you use a gun like this for? Well, I would consider this an amazing home defense gun. As a matter of fact, it is going to probably be my home defense gun here shortly. It's extremely reliable, which we'll get into right now. The reliability on this was 100% through well over 1,000 rounds. I did 1,000 rounds of testing myself with this gun, and then I also took it to the Brownell shoot, had a bunch of other people shoot it, and out there we managed to get hits at 300 yards, which we'll get to here in a minute. But I had a bunch of other people shoot it, and all of them were raving about it. As a matter of fact, 2 or 3 of them were going to go buy their own afterward. So the reliability is amazing, and because it's so reliable, you can use it for a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't want to use a 2011 for, like concealed carry, for example. I mean, I carry my C2 on a fairly regular basis because it is designed for reliability in mind, but it still has the accuracy and speed of a 2011. This is no exception. This is the bigger version of that, and it still maintains that reliability. So a home defense gun is a great use for this. Duty use is obviously a great use. As a matter of fact, this is what this particular gun is designed for and marketed toward. As a matter of fact, I think on their website they say 280 law enforcement agencies across the country are now approved for this, including big police departments like the Houston Police Departments, Vegas Metro, Texas Rangers. I know for sure use this, and yeah, it's really saying something because those guys can pretty much use whatever they want. And if you were to shoot this next to something like Glock 34, for example, you're going to find that even a stock Staccato is going to have a better trigger, and it's going to be more accurate out of the box than even my awesome customized Jaegerworks Glock 34 there. So you're going to get a lot of superior features and improvements on the 2011 over something like this, but also this out of the box is going to be a lot cheaper, and it's going to be a lot lighter as well. Now we'll get into speed and accuracy. The speed and accuracy, I mean, I've alluded to it or even flat out said it a few times already, but it's pretty amazing. The first gun I've ever shot a target with at 300 yards was the Staccato P. So, I mean, is it the most accurate gun I've ever shot? Maybe. All right, so I'm aiming at the horizon. I'm aiming at the top of the berm.
That was low right.
That was low right?
It was high right.
Oh, high right? Okay, so I'm a little high.
Can I hit the bottles?
To the left. Yeah, go for it, man. Oh, that's a hit.
That's 300.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
All That's one for the bottle.
The mix of the crisp 1 MOA SRO with the really great 3.5-ish pound trigger of the Staccato P allows you to take all the variables out of shooting accurately. The shorter and lighter a trigger, the less travel you have to go through, the less likely you are to push it off to the side or dip it down low. So it just eliminates a lot of the shit that you have to deal with when you're trying to pull a trigger straight to the rear, especially for a situation like a home defense situation, concealed carry, duty situation, where you're shooting at something that may or may not be shooting back. You are going to be a little hyped up, I imagine, and a lot of stress is going in there, and that perfect trigger pull that you have at your flat range is probably going to go right out the window. So I think that that's a real advantage. The speed also has a lot to do with the trigger. Very, very short reset. We'll go through it right here. You can see very light trigger. And then the reset is very short, and it's very positive. So a lot of times a good trigger will even have a short reset, but it won't want to push your finger out like that. Whereas this one pushes your finger out and gets you ready for the next trigger pull. And like I said, the speed on these guns are unparalleled. That's why everybody in competition, if you're in a division that allows a 2011, they use a 2011, unless they're sponsored by somebody that doesn't make 2011s. But anybody who is allowed to uses one. There's a reason for that. It's the trigger. And along with that, you're going to get a really light recoil impulse because of the added weight of the dust cover and the low mass of the reciprocating slide. Modern day 1911 2011s that are in 9mm don't need to be 5-inch. It's too much weight and it's too long of a slide, and if you're running an optic anyway, it's wasted time going back and forth, which is why companies like Staccato came out with the 4.4-inch 9mm, and companies like Atlas Gunworks came out with the 4.6. They just run faster and they return to zero much quicker, and overall do the job better for a little bit less weight up front and a little less swing weight. Now the downside to that is you're going to get a little less velocity with the 4.6 or the 4.4 than something like a 5-inch gun, and then a 9mm using hollow points that can be important. You get more expansion with more velocity, so be aware of that. However, I don't think with a 4.5-inch barrel you're going to have any problems with that. I just think that maybe you could get a little better with a 5.5-inch, but I mean, I don't think you're going to notice too much. Just wanted to mention it to make sure. Now, the optic system comes with a bunch of different plates as well. You can use the Delta point, you can use the RMR, all the classic stuff. So that's pretty cool. I mean, even with the RMR plate, you can run the hollow suns and stuff like that. So overall, with the plate system, you're going to have a lot more adaptability with the red dots that you can use. However, if you get it direct milled, it's going to be a little bit more durable because there's no interface, and also you're going to be able to get it lower. Now with 1911 2011 style guns, they are not wide enough in the slide in order to direct mill an RMR or SRO very well, simply because if you do direct mill it, you won't have enough space to fit the screws in the damn slide. If you're using a smaller optic like the RMR CC, which I did get direct milled on my Staccato C2, you can do that. But if you want a big optic, it's almost better going the route of the plates. It seems to work out really well for me, and again, no loss of zero. Now, ergonomically, the pistol is awesome to me because I love 1911s, but one thing you're going to have to remember with cheaper 2011s, I mean, I kind of laugh when I say that, but the reality is this is a relatively affordable 2011 by comparison to a lot. 2011s come in anywhere from $1,500 up to $7,000 to $10,000. So on the $2,000 rung, you're still looking at a relatively budget-minded 2011. And with that, you're going to have a couple of edges right here. So if you choke up and you shoot for a really long time, that's probably going to bother the inside of your hand a little bit, and a little bit right here as well. Those things can be taken care of with a little polishing, a little dremeling, but no big deal. We have the combat hammer on the back here, and then we have an extremely positive ambi safety, which is really nice. Also, if you're into that left-handed thing, you wrong-handed people, you can swap the magazine release over to the other side as well, which is nice. So overall, you can get a fully ambi gun right out of the box. All you have to do is swap the magazine release over, so that's pretty awesome. Now, some of the downsides to the Staccato P are going to be, first, the SRO, in my opinion, is not the perfect optic for this, sadly. I haven't taken it off yet, but we did have one really strange malfunction that I have not been able to repeat, but it did happen. So as you can see here, the hood of the SRO actually hangs over the chamber. And I was looking at that when I put it on there and was wondering if that was going to be an issue with ejection. And one time it actually was. We actually had a spent case come back, and it got trapped between the middle of the chamber right there, just like this, and the hood of the SRO. and it caused the stoppage. Now that was able to be fixed by a quick pulling back of the slide. However, it did happen, and that is a concern. So if this is a real duty gun, I might not use the SRO because it hangs over a little bit too much. There's plenty of other options like an RMR, for example, or maybe a Holosun 507, or I don't know how far the Leopold Delta Point goes out, but that's something you're going to have to be aware of. Another con is obviously going to be the extremely expensive price. I mean, $2,000, $2,400 is a lot of money that you're going to spend on a gun. Now, if you're a one gun type of guy, or if you have a bunch of guns already, maybe that's for you. But I imagine the average shooter is way more likely to shell out for a Glock 17 or even a Walther PDP, which comes close to this performance, for around a quarter of the cost. So that's something you're going to have to be aware of also. Another con is not only going to be the weight of the magazines, which is significantly heavier than your average duty pistol, so it does add a little weight to the gun when you're carrying it around, but the price of the magazines is a lot as well. I mean, depending on where you get these, you're looking at anywhere from $50 to $100 per magazine, and that's a lot. If you're looking to get MBX magazines, the expensive ones, or pre-tuned magazines or anything like that, you're going to pay even more. Now, one of the good things about the Staccato is it is designed for lockbacks. You're going to get lockback on all the magazines. However, you're going to be a little shorted capacity compared to some of the magazines that have more capacity. Well, duh, of course you are. But what I mean is that if you have lockback, you end up immediately losing 2 rounds on average. So that's something to be aware of as well. So the damn thing's pricey is what I'm trying to say, but overall I fully believe that it's worth it. If you're looking for a serious use 2011, let's say you shoot a 2011 in competition but it's a little finicky here or there, or let's say you shoot a 1911, you want a little bit more capacity, this is a really good option. As a matter of fact, one of the only ones that I would recommend for home defense or law enforcement use, or even concealed carry for that matter. You can get into some more expensive stuff, again, Atlas Gunworks, but is it worth it? Opinions may vary. Depends on what you're going to do, depends on how much you're going to shoot it, that kind of thing. All I can tell you is this gun is more accurate than you'll ever need. It's more accurate than me. It's more accurate than anybody I've ever had shoot it. It's stupid reliable. It's incredibly fast, and it comes with all the stuff you're going to need right out of the box. What more do you want? If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please support your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.